Hey everyone, welcome back to High Tea Hoops. This is Brian Bosché at the Duke of Hoops, and I am joined by Skylar Smith as always. What's up, Duchess?
Hello. So excited for today's pod.
Me too. Super special one. Your mic's a little quiet again, Skylar.
You gotta call me out on the pod.
I'm gonna call you out during the intro. We need that strong Skylar voice. But today we are joined by a very special guest, Sophie Carrigill, British wheelchair basketball player for Great Britain, who has won the gold at the 2015 Women's U25 Wheelchair Basketball Championships in Beijing, placed fourth at the 2016 Paralympics in Rio and Brazil, and most recently got silver at the 2018 Wheelchair Basketball World Championships in Germany. And a very exciting update, British Wheelchair Basketball just launched an Inspire a Generation program to double participation in the sport. The new program, driven by British Wheelchair Basketball and supported by 1.5 million pounds of Sport England funding, is engaging an inactive population through inclusive activity. So Sophie, that is one of our best intros. Welcome to the show. We're so excited to have you.
Oh, thanks so much. I'm excited to be on. I can't wait to talk to you guys.
Yeah, it's an exciting time in British wheelchair basketball with the new initiative, the new funding, preparing for Tokyo. But before we jump into all of that, I just want to get a sense, we do this on almost every episode. Were you a basketball fan growing up? What was basketball culture like when you were growing up in the UK?
Non-existent, in my opinion, because it's so great while you guys are doing this and getting the word out there about basketball, because you're so right. It's so far behind in the UK, and it's something we are so desperate to change. But I guess when I was growing up, also basketball was predominantly a men's sport. Like, it was never really shown to women or encouraged to play by girls. You know, at school I played netball instead. I played tennis. I did athletics. So I was more, the system, I suppose, puts you in line with those sports that are maybe more gender biased, I suppose, to play those, which is such a shame. But now you see basketball played so widely that has obviously changed. It's a long time since I was back at school. So, things are changing. But yeah, for me, I was not a fan, and I'd never played. I think I'd shot around a bit, like messing about at lunchtime or something in a games lesson, but that was about it. So really it was a whole new sport when I first started to play it.
Yeah, it's interesting. We just had Melita Emmanuel Carr, who played for GB in the Commonwealth Games, and they got silver. So the women outperformed the men in many cases in the UK. Same for the women in the US. Our US women's soccer team is incredible compared to the men. The men didn't even make it to the World Cup, and the women are winning. So the disparity is definitely there. But yeah, with the growth of the WBBL, the growth of grassroots basketball in the UK, it seems like there's a lot more interest in it growing, which is great to see. And then what kind of inspired you? You played netball, you played tennis. What inspired you to get into wheelchair basketball? Did someone clue you into it? Were you exploring different sports you could play? What kind of got you into the sport to start with?
Yeah, well, so when I was 16, I was in a pretty horrific car accident. So that obviously changed my life massively, going from an able-bodied young girl exploring life and playing all sorts of sport to then my life completely changing and having to sort of look at life a bit differently and take a different direction. And through my rehab and recovery, sport was always mentioned, but I was just not ready to go back to it. I was not ready really to identify with my disability, I think. And that's all just through recovery and going through that first initial few months and that first year, it's getting your head around. My life has completely changed. So it took me a while first to realize that sport was still needed to be such a big part of my life. It was the thing that I was naturally quite good at. The academic side of like school, I was never amazing at. I applied myself, but it was hard work, whereas sport came more naturally and I had that natural ability, I suppose. So yeah, it just sort of came to me that I'd gone through my recovery. I'd sort of started adapting and understanding my disability and realizing that sport was missing. It was my passion. it is my passion. You know, I just love any sport and being competitive. So it was just that really that made me think, wow, well, what can I do? And obviously having played netball, mainly all the sports I played were team sports, and I love being around people. I'm a social butterfly, I suppose, and that sort of, you know, we're not having it at the moment, which is a real nightmare for me, an extrovert like myself, you know, that social interaction. I'm craving it. But yeah, the team element, working together, you know, was something that I could transfer easily. The same sort of skills were used. But ultimately, the biggest difference was then playing in a chair. Obviously, you run quite innately when you play sport as an able-bodied athlete. Whereas the actual pushing of the chair is the hard bit. You know, I was getting to grips with, you know, shooting and like passing and catching again and things like that. But like trying to then dribble and push your chair, maneuver a chair as well was just like, wow, I was terrible. Like when I first started, I was so bad. But I just kept going, and I've got a bit of a determined personality, I suppose. And I just kept turning up, and I kept wanting to get better, I think, really. And and yeah, I just kept going on with it.
Was there a league you could join? Was there a local team? Like how did you actually get access to that?
Yeah, so I was super lucky actually that I sort of Googled, you know, disability sports near me, and basketball was the main one really that came up. And so I did some research into it, and the club was literally 10 minutes from my house, which isn't always the case, which is also why the Inspire a Generation program is so important, that we can make wheelchair basketball more local to people, and it gives people more opportunity to be able to play. That I was really lucky that I had a place down the road from me. It was the Leeds Spiders. It's where I'm from originally. I've lived there all my life, so it was really nice for me to be like
the Leeds Spiders.
Yeah,
that's terrifying. Like, my wife is,
I know, yeah,
and Skylar will just not even look at spiders.
But it was quite nice to do something that was almost like in the community, and play for Leeds was quite like, so it was nice, you know, for me to do that. But initially I was just playing for, you know, for fun and to meet people, and it was completely recreational. I never really had sights on playing for my country or anything like that. You know, I just wanted to play and just keep getting better. So it all happened quite organically, really.
Yeah. And to run through the basics of wheelchair basketball, because I have a lot of questions here. We went through this with 2K, with some others. Are there, let's start with basics before I go into my fun questions of like, is wingspan matter more? What are some of the competitive advantages? I want to figure out how to win in wheelchair basketball versus basketball. But what are some of the basics for maybe newer fans? What are some of the differences? Can you just kind of give a 101 real quick?
Yeah, I guess like the biggest rule, I suppose, that's different, or it's the same rule but in a chair, is it's 2 pushes for every dribble. So it's like a double dribble, I think that's what it's called.
Which is bad, but good.
Yeah, so it's that thing. It's, you can have 2 pushes on your wheels before you then have to dribble the ball. So, you know, when you're first starting, often you can put the ball on your lap and do your pushes. But ultimately, as you improve and your skill level develops, you can dribble the ball out in front of you and push alternate hands or things like that. Or you push the ball so far out that you can push onto it, sort of thing. I guess like other rules. So
does that mean, before we get into that, does that mean there are some people, like they talk about Giannis or Kevin Durant, like it's 2 dribbles from baseline to baseline for a dunk or something? Are there some athletes that are just incredible? They can like cover so much distance in those 2 pushes.
Yeah.
And that's a competitive advantage.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah. If they can have really strong, powerful pushes, they can go full court.
That's amazing.
And it's one of my massive weaknesses. Like it also all depends on your disability as well, and how you function, how you move in a chair. But for me, God, I look at people like that just can push their chair so easily. I'm like, oh, that's what I dream of.
Well, there's different. It's interesting where you're a 1.0 and then you have to, the 5 people have to add up to, I think, 14 based on the level of your disability. Is that right? So so if I were to play as an able-bodied person, I would be a certain classification where Maybe what does it go up to, 4 or something?
You would be a 5. So as
Okay.
an able-bodied person, you would be 5 points, and you can only have one able-bodied person on your team at one time, and that's only in like the national leagues. You can't play at a Paralympics or a World Championships for Great Britain, because obviously you could play the able-bodied game.
Well, I absolutely cannot, Sophie, but that's another discussion.
But yeah, that's how it works. So every disability is worth a certain amount of points, I suppose, based on your function, based on, it's a lot about reaching out of your cylinder and your rotational movements and your forwards and backward movements. Because for my disability, so I'm paralyzed from the waist down, I have really limited core function. So my ab muscles don't really work. So leaning outside of my cylinder, I tend to fall over, or I use a lot of strapping to sort of keep me in my chair and
use your arms to stabilize,
give that extra support. So that's why I'm less points as someone who's an amputee who is functioning everywhere else. Their muscles are still functioning, and they've not just lost, but they've got a missing limb. They are obviously a lot more functional than I am, so they have they're worth higher points. So it just means it's fair. Like, you wouldn't ever play a team that's full of amputees, so you try it, and that's a big part of like the selection process as well, is what lineups can we play, because like you said, it's all about making the numbers add up, and that's a real tactical element that I suppose it doesn't really work the same in the running game, because you don't have that element of having to add up really quickly who you're going to put on the court, but
it's almost natural roles. It's almost like natural role players. Like in the running game, you have someone who might be a little slower but taller, and so their role is the post, versus a shooter or someone who's fast. It seems like those natural roles play out in the point system as well.
Absolutely, yeah, definitely. And you develop your own role as well, because not one disability, even if it's the same as someone else, plays out in the same way. So even if someone had a spinal cord injury like me, they would probably play completely differently, or it would affect them completely differently. So they might be able to do different things a lot better, or I could do different things better, or whatever, so that really, it's organic how you sort of develop your role, I suppose, and it's never limited to what your disability is. I think I'm especially always trying to like push the boundaries of what my body can do, because ultimately I want to be the best athlete, not just the best like one pointer. I'm trying to like push my body to make it do things it might not, or it shouldn't be able to do, but that's all the work that you do behind the scenes, I suppose.
Yeah, definitely.
I feel like let's keep it moving, because we have so much ground to cover.
I have so many questions though, Sky. I want to know what a charge is.
Do you want to get that in, Brian?
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah,
one
go
more.
on then. So a charge.
Continue.
Yeah, it's the same sort of thing, really. But it's all about where your chair positioning is, and it also depends on who's reffing the game.
Of course, always.
Yeah, always. But yeah, so a charge really is if the defender is stationary, and if this is the chair, and I'm demonstrating like
it's a podcast. That's okay. We'll put this on YouTube too. If they were,
driving into them, wheels for like going straight on. I've described this terribly. That's a charge. If the defender is stationary and you're the one that's moving and you go into them, you can't use the defender to stop yourself. That's the basic rule. So you have to be in control of your chair, stop yourself before you crash into the defender, basically. But it's a lot of give and take, and it's a lot of some calls you might get, some calls might be completely wayward, but that's part of the game, isn't it? And it's part of always. You've got to see how the refs are in the first minute of the game, really. So it keeps it exciting.
Definitely. All right, Skylar, we can move on to something else.
I mean,
I could go for an hour.
I feel like we could do a whole pod on the rules. Like, we want to hear all of it, so we just gotta keep it moving. So could you give us like a brief breakdown of just what the wheelchair basketball landscape is like in the UK? So like, you play for GB, obviously. Is there like an equivalent of the BBL for wheelchair basketball? What's kind of like the league situation?
Yeah, so there is. It's not quite the equivalent of the BBL, but we're hoping at some stage it will get there. And by that I mean it's not professional at the moment. We don't have a professional league that you would be paid to play in, and that would be your training. You train there every week. It's not really like that. So as the GB team, we have a centralized program, and that's where we get our training from. We train, and we've done that now for nearly like 6 or 7 years. Wow. And that's like a central base. We train there every day, before COVID anyway. So it was full time. And then your club, almost for the women's team anyway, it was almost secondary to that. Your training would be maybe once a week with your club, and the games would be at the weekend. But yeah, we have a national league system. We have a couple of leagues, like a Premier League and Division 1, Division 2. It's kind of weird talking about it now because obviously with COVID, we've not even played for ages. I've literally not played a game in a year. So I'm going to be so rusty. Can't even remember the names of the leagues. But what we also have is, because those would be mixed. So that's the National League, and those teams would be mixed men and women. And as a woman, you don't necessarily play the same role in those clubs as you would do within your GB women's team. Yeah. So it's a bit, you almost... you don't get as much out of it, I don't think, as you would playing against other women. So what we're trying to create at the moment, and we're hoping to do this within the next couple of months, and this is the plan for the future, is to really focus on our women's league, which we do have, which is amazing. And it goes from all the way to the elite. The top is the elite to, grassroots and people just participating. And it's an amazing couple of weekends a year that we do it. Normally we play like 4 games in a weekend, and it's like hectic and you're just like mad running about, but everyone gets together and it's a real like community vibe as well. And it's, we all go out for tea afterwards, like with your teams. Yeah. So I play for the Angels of the North in that team, in that league, sorry. So yeah, I think it's really great that we've got that, and it's the biggest women's league in the world. It's growing constantly, and it's something we're really proud of. We really want to keep developing. But if we were to do something like the BBL in the UK, in the wheelchair game, the men's team have such good leagues in Europe that they all go play in Europe, and they're paid to play. It's all professional. Because the basketball culture in places like Spain and Germany and Italy is massive anyway, they've sort of, piggybacked off that, I suppose. And the wheelchair basketball game is massive in those countries, and they have thousands of fans that go watch their games. Yeah. So if we were to try and bring the men's league to the UK, we'd be starting off probably on the back foot, because the clubs in Europe are so way ahead of us. Whereas doing something new and bringing a professional women's league to this country, I think it's something really unique. It's something we could really, get people behind and celebrate. And it's, women's sports going crazy at the moment. People want to get behind it. People want to see it more. They want to see it in the press more, in the media. They want to be represented. So I think it's a movement that's happening at the moment. And I think if we can jump on that almost, which I'm, this, and the Inspire Generation program is massive for that. It's let's recruit more people to play, not just women, but anybody. Let's recruit more people just to know about wheelchair basketball as well. Yeah.
I feel like most things in life, I get more out of it when it's just women. I'm just not getting as much out of it. I totally agree on that. And I also want to say, we talked about the spiders. You guys have the coolest names. Did you say the Angels of the North?
Yeah.
That is such a sick name.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool, isn't it? Yeah, we are angels.
So could you tell us what a typical day of training is like for you guys?
Yeah, for sure. So obviously before COVID, it was a bit more, we were a lot more close together, and we'd have a lot more training in one day, sort of jam-packed all the time. So we would sometimes Monday to Friday, 9 till 5 in our venue, training. So that would be maybe a shooting session in the morning, a gym session, and then a team session in the afternoon or something. So that would be pretty typical. Now what we're doing is we're obviously trying to avoid as much contact as possible, but at the same time getting as much quality training as we can. So we're doing a lot of the similar things, gym sessions. Our team sessions we've not really been doing at the moment because we're still working through the stages to be able to get to 5v5 or even 3v3, you know, doing things as safely as we can. Like we're testing twice a week now, so hopefully you know, as the weeks go on, we'll keep incrementally like changing that. But yeah, we've done a lot of work on our individual skills, which actually, had COVID not happened, we wouldn't have had the time to do that, because we'd have been like pushing real hard to like get loads of team training in and tactics and, you know, running plays and things like that. That actually stepping away for a bit and just only being allowed to do individual things has probably really helped us, you know, really work on your shooting technique, your mentality, your ball skills, your chair skills, and yeah, just allow, it's almost like take the pressure off a little bit and allow yourself to work on those fundamentals, because ultimately without those fundamentals you're not a great basketball, you can't be a great basketball player. Like, you've got to work on those. So it's allowed us a lot of time to do that, which actually we're all looking in great shape and playing really well from, you know, what I've seen. And I'm just really excited to, you know, get the ball rolling again and start playing some games. And I said before, I'm going to be rusty, but you know, it'll come back, I'm sure. And the game fitness and stuff will obviously come back. And yeah, we're just super excited to start playing together now. Yeah,
it's so interesting. Well, I mean, most team sport athletes love to play. So if there's an option to play 5-on-5 or 3-on-3, you would much rather do that than go work individually on your dribbling skills or your chair skills or your shooting skills. But yeah, so many of the athletes we've spoken with have had to go in that workshop a little bit more and refine their own individual game. So I'm interested to see how that affects performance. Like maybe more time needs to be dedicated to individual work rather than playing, which is frustrating.
Yeah, well, no, me too. You know, we've never done this before. This wouldn't have been how we would have prepared for a Paralympic Games, you know, had COVID not been a thing. So I'm interested to see, you know, who knows? I might think you know, it's not going to benefit, but actually it could. Nobody knows, because we've never done that before. So yeah, it'll be really, really interesting. And I think just as well, like in a team sport, if you can make sure your morale is high and you're having a good time together, I think that's half the battle with like winning and being successful. You know, if you've got a good vibe and going into games feeling confident, ultimately that's, for me, you know, having that swag about you is super important.
Definitely.
So yeah, that's something that we can take in. That doesn't mean we have to spend hours and hours and hours playing games, you know. That's on us, our mindset. So yeah, we're working on stuff like that as well.
So you went into the workshop individually. What's your top skill? And then what were you working on? What were you trying to build up over the pandemic?
I guess my top skill, I'm really good at passing. Like I would happily, you know, say that, blow my own trumpet, I suppose.
Yes,
those little
like
dinky passes, you know, like no look passes or like off the hand, you know, off the hand pass. I'm still demonstrating, but you know what I mean.
The Sue Bird, I love it.
That's what I like. And you know, that makes the crowd go wild. They love it if they, you know, nice pass and get all the assists, you know. But no, that's something that I think I'm quite good at. But in terms of development areas, God, I could list you a long list. How long have you got? For me, it's about like I mentioned before, my disability affects me in a certain way that my first couple of pushes are pretty slow, just to like generate my body moving forwards. So those like quick, short, sharp movements have been really important for me to like work on. And things just like ball handling, like we've got some new coaches in the team, and things are changing, you know, always things change in sport. You adapt to how you're playing and you adapt to the opposition. So we're really trying to mix up how we play and take a lot of accountability for everybody playing and everyone being a scorer. You want threats on the floor no matter what. So that's sort of been something that I've really taken on myself, I suppose, to develop like my ball handling skills and just like catch and shoot ability as well. Like if I'm probably not going to be the person with the ball all the time, so a pass might come to me, and that ability to just catch and fire off the shot straight away is really important. So those little things I guess I've been focused on working on.
Yeah, you're a classic athlete that's like, oh, I have to work on everything. I'm not good at anything.
No, to be fair, I do know what I'm good at, but it's been really frustrating in lockdown, I think, because my boyfriend's an athlete too, but he's an endurance athlete. So he has like his bike set up in the garage and can literally sit on that for hours and hours and hours. And that is like my idea of hell. Like I hate that. I can't do that at all.
You need a different mentality.
I need stimulation. I need like to be making decisions, to be like skillfully like passing and whatever. And it's really like frustrated me this whole time, because he's like excelling in what he does. And I'm sat there like, you must think I'm such a bad athlete because I get bored so easily. Whereas like he's not really seen me play, because we only got together like a year ago and then the pandemic hit. Yeah. And so I was like, you must just not really rate me. But I was like, I promise I'm good. I am good. It's just all the skillful things that you don't see yet.
Have you checked out my Wikipedia page? Go refer to that. But let's transition into some of the competitions you've been in. As we've stated, you won bronze at the European Championships, gold at the U25. And as you prepare for Tokyo,
like you're not a good athlete, as if he's gonna say
I know.
We're like listing off all your medals.
Just look at my medals. Just get out of here. Go in the garage and go pedal.
With your medals.
Yeah, I'll have them. I have them like hung up. Like, babe, do you see this?
Yeah, exactly.
Just have them on at all times.
Yeah.
So you are preparing for Tokyo, but let's rewind to 2016, where you got fourth at the 2016 Paralympics in Rio. Mm-hmm. You got to go to Rio for a Paralympics. That's incredible. What was that experience like? Oh, I heard you had a big entourage with you, which sounds incredible.
Yeah, it was. Honestly, that experience was one of the best experiences of my life. That year had been pretty rough for me. I had to have emergency surgery at the start of the year. So I didn't know if I was going to make it or I'd get it fit enough in time to make the squad. But I did, and that just made me, I think, so driven, like those couple of months leading into Rio, to make and be in the shape I could be. I was just so determined to get there, and then it just made that experience just like, oh, I'm here. Like I grew up as a kid like wanting, like watching the Olympics and thinking, what can I do, like what sport could I do that could get me there? And I was never like good enough or was willing to, I guess, make those difficult choices at that early age to go and do that, because that's hard work. Obviously, like to be an Olympian, Christ. But the silver lining, obviously, after my accident happening, was that this opportunity arose that I could be a Paralympian, equally as amazing. But obviously, I'd just been given an opportunity later down the line. I was 16 when my accident happened. So literally waking up and seeing the Olympic Park every day, like from my room, was like a dream. It was a dream come true, and it gives me goosebumps now even thinking about it, because it is the reason why I still do what I do. Like it's hard, it's tough. It's being an athlete. You make a lot of sacrifices, and the choices you make along the line aren't always. I was a student whilst I was training full time, and I didn't have those nights out that all my friends went on, and you make those types of choices.
That Skylar had at Kings. The classic nights out.
But I guess like it just all makes it so worthwhile when you have those experiences, and that was even before we started playing. Like I was just loving it. I had the best time. It was, I think I'd been to watch the London 2012 Paralympics and I wasn't in the team at the time, but I was in the crowd.
You carried the torch too.
I did.
Amazing.
That was incredible. Yeah, and those little things just really gave me a taste of what it was like to be an elite athlete, watching the girls play in London and seeing that crowd, just like, it was just like electric, like, and for me that's like performing on like a stage, like that is like my stage, and I just love it, like I just love that atmosphere. So I guess like that was a real driving force for me, I suppose, like to get to Rio and to compete under that type of pressure. was just, it's just what I love to do. So it was just an incredible experience, and the games were just intense as well, because we messed up our first game, like we weren't supposed to lose but we did, and then we were like clawing it back. We beat Germany in the pools, which we were the underdogs massively, but we just had nothing to lose and went out there like with that mindset of just like, let's just go get them, and made it to the quarters against China, and had a great game. And then the semi-final against USA was insane, a really high scoring for the women's game, really high scoring game. And unfortunately we lost, and then we also lost the bronze medal game against the Dutch. But ultimately, at the time, it was such a bittersweet experience, because we came fourth, which the team has never done. We'd never made it to a semi-final at any sort of world stage at all, Paralympics or world champs. So that was obviously something to celebrate, but then you're the one team that's coming away without a medal, and it's kind of like breaks your heart a bit.
Fourth is tough, even though it's an incredible accomplishment, just like the one missing out, but still amazing.
It's tough, and but I think that was probably right for where we were at the time. And obviously after Rio, we maintained our funding, which meant that we could keep centralized and keep training hard, and ultimately after that we just went on from strength to strength, and obviously coming out with a world silver medal, which is an amazing achievement and something I'm super proud of.
Yep, definitely.
So for like wheelchair basketball, who are like the countries who kind of come in and dominate like year after year? Are there countries who are doing that, or is it kind of still pretty equitable?
No, there are. I think I just think there's a lot of countries at the moment who are like growing and developing, and everyone has, I guess, like peaks and troughs of when they come in and have like really great years and things like that, depending on the squad that they've got as well, people retiring maybe. But the Dutch are up there, Germany, Canada, I think USA are a good team, Spain are really up and coming and like really, putting in a good fight as well. So there's no one really that you can sort of take your foot off the gas and think, oh, this game's easy, because even if it was, like the minute you do that, you've lost your head and you're not focused on that game. So we just take every game as it's really competitive, and that we've got to pull out our A game to beat this team, because you never know as well, when big tournaments come around, people just bring their absolute everything. So there are some teams that are consistently at the top, but you just never know, like people are always chipping away, and especially now, like working behind the scenes, we don't know what other teams have been up to, like, and also they don't know what we've been doing. So it'll be exciting even just getting to Tokyo and seeing what we come up against, because we've not played anyone in a year, and it'll be 18 months by the time we get there.
They for Tokyo, what has it been like? You talked about kind of the the strange pandemic training. We've talked about this with a lot of athletes, that preparing for these type of competitions is much different. What are some of the things that you think the team can do leading up to Tokyo, and fingers crossed that it happens, and that, the vaccines roll out and it can be safe, and then it all goes on. What has it been like really preparing for Tokyo, and what do you think you have to do to really present your best team at the event?
Number one is obviously safety. Like, let's make sure that everyone's safe getting out there first, because obviously that is their priority. But I think us as a squad, like, we've taken it upon ourselves to like want to change the way we play and make our play so much more dynamic and versatile, that you're not relying on a couple of players to win you games. So everyone individually has taken on that responsibility, and I think that will put us in a really good position going into any tournament, that people have got that responsibility now, that it's not just on one scorer or two scorers, it's on everyone. And I think that just develops the women's game so much as well, when you can move the ball so well and everyone's a threat. It then makes the opposition react differently. If you knock a couple of shots down, the defense has got to jump you, and it creates other opportunities. So I think that's what we've taken on. What else? I think just working on the things that we've been able to work on, like just focusing on what we can do rather than I've been guilty of it. You know, I've gone into training and gone, oh God, I just really want to play a game, or I really want to play 3v3, and being really frustrated. But actually, like, if you just switch your mindset and focus on like the skills that you can be developing and the things that you can be working on, that's been something that I think we've all done really well. Obviously, with some grumbles because, you know, we want to play. That's something I've struggled with, but it's important to take what we can and I suppose take the positives. And we've done a lot of work on our, you know, team dynamics, team confidence, things like that, how we start games. You know, having those conversations is again just something that we can work on over Zoom, thankfully. You know, so keeping like the team relationship strong as well is something we've been trying to do.
Yeah, so switching gears a little bit, can you tell me a little bit about the Inspire Generation program, and what do you think it'll mean to the wheelchair basketball community as a whole?
Yeah, so the Inspire Generation program has been launched by British Wheelchair Basketball to obviously try and increase the participation of people playing, because currently, you know, there's not that many clubs, there's not that many places where you can go and readily rent a chair or sit in a chair and try the sport. So I think to make that more accessible, more inclusive, is just a really important thing to try and get more people to want to play and to see wheelchair basketball and to know about it, and to spread the word, almost to spread that message of, oh, there's this really cool sport that everyone loves when they watch it, but they just don't know where to go and play it. So we're trying to recruit activators who can help with this process in their local community, and they'll be given a really intensive training program to almost, you know, facilitate the delivery of wheelchair basketball in their community. So it's for anyone really who wants to get involved, which is why wheelchair basketball is such a great sport. It's totally inclusive. Even if you are non-disabled, you can play in your national league. And I think the beauty of that is, I think when I was growing up, I loved doing things with my friends, like playing sport with my friends. And that shouldn't matter whether you've got a disability or not. You should be able to do something that is completely inclusive for everyone. So if you've got a friend with a disability, you can also go play that sport with them. Definitely. So that's something that I think we can absolutely celebrate and get that message out there completely. And I think how it will help with you know, the sport in general is just increasing participation means more people know about the sport, which then develops more people watching, you know, more fans, which I'm all about, more fans of wheelchair basketball. And then ultimately that, you know, not everybody wants to go on to be a Paralympian or to aspire to be an elite athlete. I think disabled people just being active is really important, and giving them an opportunity to do that is one of the main sort of driving forces behind the Inspire Generation program. But ultimately, some of those people might want to progress and might want to make it into the GB Academy or into the GB senior team at some point. And ultimately, I want people, like, more people competing for my sport, because that makes me a better athlete. That makes me push myself harder. If there's more young girls, especially as I'm getting on a bit, you know, as the years go by.
Oh, Sophie, come on.
No, I'm not. No, but in terms of being an athlete, you know,
that's true.
Your career doesn't last forever.
I mean, Serena's almost 40, right?
I know, yeah.
It's so extended now.
She's a dream. But that would be the goal, you know, the goal would be to carry on. But I want people, you know, making me work harder, coming up for my spot, you know. So I think that also will help. That the Inspire Generation program will probably feed into our program at GB as well.
That makes sense. In your ideal world, what does the wheelchair basketball community look like? I mean, I think you just kind of touched on some, you know, areas for improvement. You know, Brian is focused on, you know, how basketball can be grown in the UK. What's kind of like, it's, you know, you're in a perfect utopia. We've gotten as far as we can with wheelchair basketball. What does the community look like?
Oh, I think it's just like inclusion is really important to me. So it's giving everyone an opportunity to play if they want to play. So that would be number one, is that it's in every leisure centre across the country, that people have access to it, regardless of ability, income, you know, regardless of that they can play the sport. I guess then other things would be that we had a professional league, that we had sponsorship, that we had fans that came to our games, that it was like the BBL, you know, that you had a massive like fanfare at the start and you all got introduced coming out, and that you were like almost like local celebrities, like because, you know, that is the case with a lot of athletes, that they're recognized for the amazing things that they do, and I think we are to a certain extent within our community, but not on a broader scale. So I think that recognition potentially would be something that I'd love to see, and yeah, more fans at the games would be great, because that, you know, God, for me, playing in front of fans is awesome. I love it. So I would love to see more people at our games, and then yeah, on the wider scale, it's, you know, continuous and I think consistent success on the world stage would be something that I'd love to have for us as a GB team.
Yeah, that does sound like a beautiful ideal.
Yeah, that'd be perfect, right?
Yeah. If only we could just snap our fingers and make all that.
I know.
What's something you wish casual sports fans understood about wheelchair basketball? So this could either be like, maybe there's a misconception that people constantly think and you want to debunk it. Maybe there's just something that literally none of us know that you wish we knew. If you just spread it to the entire casual sports fan audience, what would you know?
God, that's a really good question. I think the biggest thing, maybe it's a misconception, I'm not sure, but they think it's almost a lesser version of the running game, and that they see the chair maybe as like something that slows you down, and it like makes it more. Really, the chair is just a piece of equipment, just like a football is, just like the ball is, just like
rackets,
golf clubs,
you know, golf clubs.
Exactly. It is our piece of equipment, and I think that would be what I wish people saw. But that's a massive societal problem that people. I saw a thing the other day on Instagram actually that about chairs with wheels. So like the office chair, everyone thinks that's amazing because you can fly around your office on wheels and it's great. Whereas then they see a wheelchair and it's like, oh, that's sad, and you know, oh, I'm sorry for that for you. You know, so it goes deeper than just sports fans. But if we start to publicize wheelchair basketball in that way and show people that it is just your piece of equipment that you use to play your sport, then ultimately, and this has happened, like people come watch a minute of the sport and then they're just like watching sport. It's not like, oh, I'm watching a person in a wheelchair play sport, you know. So it just takes that initial like, come watch, come see it for yourself, and then you'll be a lifelong fan, hopefully. So yeah, that would probably be my thing.
Or like you said, just the inclusion, if you want to play with your friends, just for casual fans, like if you go to a leisure center and it's, you know, there's a lot of issues of just making it, like you said, more affordable to get into courts, to have court time. I know that's been a big problem across the UK of just getting affordable court time and not paying 50 pounds for an hour, which is insane to us in the US. But just being able to play with your friends and like having the equipment available if you want to try it out. And then once you try it out, you're like, wow, this is the sport. Like I can follow it. There's different mechanics to it that are interesting. I think that can be so powerful. So to wrap this up, if someone's never gotten into wheelchair basketball before and they're wanting to, where's the best place to start? You mentioned Inspire a Generation and having different advocates in the community. Where can people start to learn more and to get more involved?
Absolutely, that would be the first place. inspireageneration.com is the website. But also, if you want to just look at, you know, you can follow people on Instagram, follow the British wheelchair basketball team, follow individual athletes. Like, I guess, like make your feed more inclusive and like varied, so that you're seeing different people, you're seeing different, you know, athletes and different bodies and what they look like, you know, just to, I guess, experience, you know, what we're like. And yeah, but I would definitely recommend going on, you know, watching some footage, maybe we're all on YouTube, like we've got loads of footage on YouTube, so watching some games and just like immerse yourself in it. But if you want to just come and play, like there's clubs all across the country which are, you know, still running. We're still it's a lot of online stuff at the moment, but still doing virtual like sessions with a lot of the clubs. So you can go on the British Wheelchair Basketball website as well and find your nearest club. And yeah, just honestly, it was the best thing that I ever did, joining this sport, and it's changed my life completely. And I can't look back, you know, I have absolutely no regrets. I love it. It's such a great community and it's so fun to be a part of. So I would 100% recommend getting involved.
Yeah. And then where can people find you? Instagram,
Twitter? I'm on all the platforms. Yeah, I'm at Sophie Carrigill on, you know, the whole shebang. Instagram, Twitter, TikTok.
Are you on TikTok yet? Yes, yeah. TikTok. Let's go, Sophie.
If you're interested in some cool like wheelchair dance moves, then yeah, have a look at my TikTok. I try my best.
That's great to hear. Well, thank you so much for coming on. This was incredible. And best of luck as you train for Tokyo.
Thank you so much. It's been really nice to talk to you.
Bye.